Good morning, and thank you for attending our Modena Infrastructure webinar. We are glad to see there's so many attendees this morning. Firstly, I want to introduce myself. My name is Salome Fourie. I am part of the Modena Infrastructure team, one of the accounts managers, and I just want to introduce Jacques Pieterse. He will be doing the presentation today, and we are looking forward to seeing what he has done. The webinar will be the Civil War for iDAS and Civil, and enjoy it. For the questions and answers, please put it into the Q&A at the bottom, and Jacques will answer all your questions at the end of the presentation.
Well, thank you so much, Salome. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jacques Pieterse. I'm an application year specialist in the infrastructure department here at Modena AEC. And for today, we're going to start discussing about Civil 3D and iDAS, the Civil War part. And what we're going to discuss is the following topics. But just before we get into the nitty-gritty of exactly what is going to happen, the first thing I need to ask everybody just to attend with me is a quick poll. So we just get a better feel of the audience for the guys that actually know a few questions. So we will quickly run a poll. I would appreciate it if you guys will all attend, just to give get good indication on what type of software you are using currently. So we just give a few more seconds for the guys just to select the polls, so I can just get a better understanding and on a feel for the crowd out there regarding which software package you are using. Okay, and the results are in. So as you can see, there's about 35% is just using Civil 3D and 43% that's actually using Civil 3D and Devotech and Aidas, and then some other type of software we actually have 22%. So that's good of the odds, because this is going to be very enlightful for everybody, for Civil 3D and for Civil 3D Devotech Aidas users, as well as other type of software. So moving on, for those who don't know what Devotech really is all about, I will quickly explain. So who is actually Devotech Aidas, and how are they going to assist us in this little Civil War reenactment I have got prepared? So just to give everybody a quick indication of what Devotech is a South African software development company. They provide automated design functionalities to engineers industry within Autodesk Civil 3D infrastructure. So in small brackets, it's actually an add-on to Civil 3 with its own separate licenses, as well as Devotech Aidas transforms your Autodesk Civil 3D to a complete BIM design application, and it enables you to perform all design aspects without importing or exporting to other design or analysis models or software. So everything is basically done inside of Civil 3D. So there's no more import, export data at all. As well as they are built upon Autodesk Civil 3D. So Devotech can't actually work without Civil 3D because it's built in, and that's the key function. As well as there are various licenses options that we provide for standalone and network licenses. And I also added here at the bottom of the command just a small little tip of how it looks like in Civil 3D. And as you can see here in the bottom stage, there's this little Aidas icon, which is the actual add-on with its amazing functionalities. So for the main part, Civil War, we're going to discuss today on how road designs are designed and modeled throughout. So just a quick main overview is the first segment we're going to have is we're going to show you how Civil 3D alone, the traditional way of constructing roads and intersections are being done currently. Then we're going to move on to how Civil 3D and Devotech Aidas does the automated way of designing roads and intersections. And then finally, we're going to compare the results and statistics of who is actually winning this battle, because this is a two-part system. We're going to go into depth in seeing who's the winner at the end. So just before we start, there are a bit of ground rules, that needs to be engaged. The first element is in both cases of these designing of roads, the topographic surface has already been imported. So they are an existing surface. The road center line positioning and places are already placed as polylines for guidance, as well as all of the road and intersection assemblies are created beforehand. So, and then very importantly, we're going to take it to the next level because this is an actual reenactment of a challenge. The timer does not lie. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time I've ever done this before, but we're going to run a timer while I'm doing this designs, and we will compare the results at the end of this webinar. So, first things first is Captain America's time. So, it's just Civil 3D alone, the traditional way of constructing roads and intersections. So, if I jump to Civil 3D, we can actually go start off just to indicate one more time. There are already existing surface, which is called NGL, as well as I've got outlines for the polyline. So we're going to design these 2 roads, and there are additional 4 roads, which you can also go and design a bit later on. Now, like I mentioned, the assemblies have already been created. The assemblies for the roads are already set up, as well as for the intersection design, as well as the bow mouth design. So all of these are already set up and ready to go. So my main objective is to design these 2 roads and the intersection. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go time myself and quickly do all of these steps. Now, I'm not going to mention each and every step I'm doing, but I am going to call this Captain America because this is his drawing file. So like I mentioned, I'm going to go into a little bit of technical details right now, but you'll find the benefit as soon as I go. So without delay, let's start this thing. So quickly, if I want to go create any type of alignment from an existing object, I can say alignment from an object. So if I go select, it's going to ask me to select for which direction I want, and it indicates the direction. So I can give this thing a proper name, specify the site, as well as defining the label set. So I'm going to change this to major above center line. The design criteria, because all of our roads are according to standard, it needs to be designed according to Sunroll. I'm going to use that as an example. And I'm going to say use design check sets. So I simply say OK and transform the polyline to an actual alignment. Now the critical next part is to do design is the profile design. So if I go to create profile from surface and I add it to my system, and I can simply say draw in profile view. For those who don't know, profile is a fancy word for vertical alignment in Civil 3D. So I need to set up my bands and my station range to set up my long section, or in this case, as we call it, a profile view. So I set up the bands and I say create profile view. So as soon as I do that, I can place the profile wheel somewhere here in the space. And now I'm ready to do the next design. The next design is the profile design itself. So how I'm designing it as a civil engineer, I just set up one setting. I don't want labels on these things, as well as it also has its design criteria, which is normally our K values that we need to specify in a long section. So I can say use design check, and there we go. So I can just quickly model up and design this road. So just for time consuming purposes, I'm not going to design it 100%, but I'm going to at least design it very closely to accurate. So let's say, for example, I'm going to place it somewhere over here and just snap to the end. There we go. Then what you can do is you can actually go and add free vertical curves. So I like to use this free vertical parabolic PVI base because it allows you to give a few settings. So we'll specify the radius as 100, and there we go. So as soon as I do that, that's now sufficient enough. You can still add more PVIs if you want to, but like I said, this is a time constraint. I am trying just to get as much as possibly done to design 2 roads and the intersection. So as soon as I do that, very critical, I need to design my super elevation because I do have bends around it. So I can go and specify, create super elevation now, and I can go specify what type of system. Now I want an undivided planar, as well as which side is my high side. Left edge will be fine. And then I can go and say next and specify the normal lane width. So in this case, I'm going to specify the width as 3.7. The outside edge shoulders, I can go and specify, as well as we have design criteria for the super elevation design as well. I'm just confirming I'm using Devotech's Sunroll standard. So as soon as I do that, I can say automatically resolve overlaps if there's overlaps in my super elevation. And there, ladies and gentlemen, it's done. So we've designed the alignment, I designed the profile and the super elevation. Now the next step is I need to basically go and combine everything else. You can also see in the long section, it actually adds that super elevation details. So the critical stage now is I need to go and put this together. So that's what we call create a corridor. So if I go to my tab, corridor, I can go and create a specific corridor and specify the profile design. My assembly, I'm going to use as road, and my target surface needs to be NGL. Then I can say set off the baseline parameters, and there we go. So that's creating just one road on its own, but there are some few elements that's missing inside of my long section. As you can see, the values and the levels are not correct because I need to extract those data. And those data that I acquire is called ETWs. It stands for edge of tileway. It will pick up the levels on each side of the road. Now, in Civil 3D, the old-fashioned way, we need to do this by hand. So I am literally going to say create profile from a corridor, and I'm going to call this road 1 ETW to the left. The style is to the left. And I need to do exactly the same thing for the right-hand side. So as soon as I do that, I can simply go and create it. And I can say road 1 ETW to the right. And I can just change the style to ETW to the right and simply say OK. So as soon as I do that, it creates the two additional profiles. And as you can see in my long section, they have appeared. Now, one thing I need to set up manually in the old-fashioned way is I need to go to my profile view settings so I can correspond the correct data inside of my bands, or in our case, on our vertical long section. So this is a bit of a tedious process that we need to do this manually. So what Devotech Aidas actually have done, they've made it very nice with their styles. And if you're even a beginner, it's very easy to follow. So in the styles, in the beginning styles, it tells you which profile goes where. So I'm just going to change quickly these things. That needs to be VA. This needs to be road ETW to the left. VA, ETW to the right. Yet again, VA. Oh, sorry, that needs to be NGL. Yes, that's correct. And I can simply say apply and OK. So there we have created all of the correct data inside of the long section. And now it corresponds to my perfect design. Then something to mention, what we do require a bit later on is, as you can see, the levels and the super elevation. So another way of displaying this abilities is by creating a topo surface for my road. Now, the old-fashioned way we need to do this, we need to simply go select the corridor. And inside of the corridor, I need to go to my corridor properties and manually add these surfaces. So if I go say add the surfaces and I rename it, so I'm going to call this, let's say, road 1 top. So it picks up the specific code. I can give this thing a specific style as well. So let's make it contours colored 0.2 and 0.4 increments. And I need to go and add to specify the code and specify top links. Then for the boundaries, so that the surface does not extend outside of my boundary, I set up that details and say apply and OK. As soon as I do that, it actually builds the entire road. Now, in this stage, I am happy with it, but now I need to do exactly the same thing for row 2. So you can see where this comes in a bit tedious. So let's just quickly create from objects again, because this is a challenge, ladies and gentlemen. Just bear with me. We are going to do this, but you'll find the benefits afterwards. So if I just go quickly set up the sun roll again and say, OK. Oh, my fudge. You might have noticed this could happen into your industry. When under time and compression, you make little mistakes. So I selected the wrong option. Let me just do that again and say reverse this and say from an object. This does happen sometimes, and this is why I want to put emphasis on it when using the other version, which I was quickly going to discuss with Civil 3D and Devotech Aidas. So just quickly just do this again. Devotech roadway design standards, use a design check, and simply say OK. So as soon as I do that, we've got this alignment again. And I need to go and design the rest of the road. So if I go to profile, yet again, create surface profile, and I go specify road, So there's a road 2 and a road 2-1. So when you do a mistake like this can cause even more confusion. So that's why always be precaution when selecting your elements and creating them. But there's a big benefit. There are much easier ways than this to be done to reduce this amount of errors. So I'm just going to go run through all of the systems again and say create the profile view. Then I'm going to place the profile view somewhere close, and there we go. So yet again, the second step is I need to go and yet again, the second mistake, selecting the wrong icon, profile creation tools, and now I'm going to do the design. So like I mentioned, I did this deliberately because sometimes it does happen in our industry. Clients do want stuff faster, and as engineers, we are pressured for time, so making mistakes is a very critical element for us. And I'm going to show you a bit later on how Devotech Aidas assist us in reducing these amount of errors. So I'm just going to quickly go and design this road. I'm going to keep it very simple. Let's place it very close to the NGL. I'm going to place it somewhere, let's say very close to this NGL, somewhere over there. Or let's move it a little bit up, a little bit. There we go. And I can go and adjust it. And I'm going to just snap to the end and Bob's your uncle. There we go. So I just want to go and confirm. That looks a little bit too steep. Let's just move it down a little bit. There we go. That looks much better. Wonderful. So I've designed the alignment, the profile, and now I need to go and define the super elevation design for this. So yet again, to do the super elevation design, you simply select the alignment, and I go to super elevation design, and I can say calculate and edit super elevation. So as soon as I do that, I'm going to go undefined planner again, and you actually have more capabilities. You can choose any type, really. Depends on what you're designing. So I'm going to just go quickly fly through this. Next, yet again, 3.7. Next. I don't want outside shoulders, so I'm going to switch that off and say next. And I am using the right standard, either sun rolls, and I can simply say automatically resolve overlap. And I can simply say finished. So as soon as we do that, it designs the entire super elevation. And now I can actually go move on to the next stage. Yet again, I can go and create the corridor. So corridor selection. There we go. It actually creates a row 2. And let's go specify the VA as well as the assembly is still road. And the target surface is NGL. I'm not going to set the baseline region parameters this time. So I simply say OK. And Bob's your uncle, there we go. So 2 roads took at least about 10.59 minutes to do. So, and I still need to fix up this road segment inside of the long section. So it's still not 100% complete. So let's quickly do this together for the last time, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to just add the ETWs because this is all about performance and accuracy. So I can give this thing quickly a name. I'm going to call this road to ETW left. And I can go set up the rest. This is actually supposed to be left, ETW to the left. There we go. And simply say OK. Then I need to do exactly the same thing for the right hand side quickly. Let's do that. Specify ETW to the right. Give it a naming convention, road to ETW to the right. And simply say OK. So as soon as I do that, it creates the 2 profiles. So if I zoom into the actual one, you can see the super elevation taking an effect on the profile. Something I need to mention is in Civil 3D, this ETWs are static. So if there is modifications being made into this file, they won't update. So if I change any type of my profile design, these will not update. So that's something to note. But this is in the past. There's a better way of doing it using some awesome tools inside of Devotech Aidas. So I'm just going to finish up this real quick. There we go. Change the last one to NGL and Bob's your uncle apply. And let's just check. Yeah, that's perfect. It's now having the right data. So I can simply say OK. And then one critical element I need to still add to the last road is just that topographic surface for the top road. Because if I'm designing the intersection design, I'm going to need that surface. So if I go to corridor properties, And for the surfaces, I can say the last time for this for row 2, top. So I type in top, and I can add the code quickly and say top links and boundaries, and quickly add the corridor extend to outer boundary. So I simply say apply and OK, and there we go. Oops, I forgot to actually go and change this style. So it's now set to triangles. Now there's a faster way of actually changing a style. Instead of going to the properties tab, I can simply go and switch this out very quickly. So let's just change this to 0.2, and that looks sufficient. So technically it took me 13 minutes in total to design 2 roads successfully. Now what I want to do next is I want to start designing the actual intersection of this between these 2 main roads, and let's see how far we get. So very critical, what I want to do is maybe just switch off these 2 surfaces because they might cause some errors when I'm doing and graphic display when I'm doing the actual bow mouth designs as well. So I'm just switching those 2 off, and now I can go and define this. Now the first step I need to do is I need to draw out my bow mouths manually. So I'm going to go create a new alignment, and I'm going to call this bow mouth to the left because I need to tie in the one road to the other, and I'm going to call the type as a curb return. For those who don't know, a curb return is a fancy word for bow mouth, and as well as the curb return, I can go and specify the style, and I don't want any labels, and we're not going to do any design criteria. Now this is a bit tedious. You need to do this for all of your intersection design when you do this manually. But never fear, Jacques is near, and Devotech Aidas is around the corner, and they will show you the way, and we will look into that a bit later. So I need to go snap to that ETW just to connect to them, because they need to be exactly on that same spot, because that's where it's going to pick up that levels. So as you can see, I can quickly go and snap to the points, ETWs. The reason why we need to do this is because our bow mouths are controlled by radiuses. So this is a nice function of how defining specific radiuses. So if I go and select the alignment and select the second choice and specify less than 180, because this is an intersection design and not an off-ramp design. So I need to specify the radius for my bow mouth depending on what type of scenario you've got. We've got urban development in this stage, so I'm going to say 10 meter radius. Now I need to do this exactly the same for the other side. So if I do go and say alignment creation tools, and let's just quickly just do this alignment and say bow mouth to the right. And yet again, this one it actually remembers the settings, so which is a bit time saver. And then we need to manually go and connect these elements. So I'm just going to select this option and just quickly snap. As you can see, yet again, I made another mistake, the snapping problem. So this can also occur. So it reduces the amount of work ethic you're doing in your company. But like I said, there are many ways that we can actually go and do these things faster. It's even scary at some point, but we will look into that a bit later. So as soon as I move this to the right position, so basically so far I've made 3 mistakes in this entire webinar. And like I said, this happens in real life. Nothing is perfect, but we always try to achieve something spectacular. So I'm going to go say alignment quickly again and specify this radius as 10 meters. So there we go. Those 2 are now nicely defined. And now the critical element is I need to link these 2 roads in profile view. So what I need to do is I need to go project road 1's top of surface so I can actually tie into that exact road. So road 1 is my main road, and the secondary, or road 2 in this case, is my secondary road design. So if I want to go and add just an additional surface, and I can say quickly draw in both, just say okay, there we go, and it adds that surface. So as soon as I do that, you see that's the representation of road 1. Now what I need to do is I need to make sure I tie into this road directly. So let me just make sure I've got the correct snaps on. So let's go to snaps, and let's just say switch off nearest node. Midpoint will actually work. There we go. And I can snap to that exact point. So what I'm basically doing is I'm tying the 2 rows to one another. So we don't have that the one road is higher than the other. That's the main critical stage. And then I want to just follow this line because it needs to tie in directly all the way to this ETW to the side. So I'm just going to insert the new PVI, and I'm going to add it to the new PVI. yet again, the snaps is not correct setup. So let me just quickly fix this. And let me just switch on to the right snap. So let's go quickly to snaps. And let's say endpoint. And I'm going to switch off the midpoint. And there we go. So it's always the little stuff that makes the biggest difference in life. And those are one of them. So as soon as I do that, I actually changed. And as you might have noticed, if I rebuild the corridor because it's outdated, it needs to update those levels. Now, like I mentioned, the ETW does not update in the old Civil 3D. As you can see, it actually still left behind. So you need to do this manually again, over and over and over, which is very time consuming, especially if you've got a lot of projects. So you can think how much time it actually will save you when I show you the automated form. So after I set up those elements, I can move on to actually defining these bow mouth designs. So one thing I need to do is I need to also design the bow mouth profile. So I connect road 1 to road 2. So I'm going to select road 1 to top surface, road 2 top surface, and I go define a style as to be top surface. So I can see these levels in profile view because the bow mouth needs to go around itself and actually connect so that the water can actually drainage out of my intersection. Now, yet again, I need to go set up the create profile views. And I can say curb return and say next. So it has its own style. And I'm going to just quickly run through all of these settings quickly. Just want to check. Yeah, that's okay. And we don't have a specific bands because normally these profile views you don't show to clients. This is just for you as an engineer. So I can simply say next. After this, there's no bands. And I don't have any hatching. So as soon as I do that, I'm just going to quickly do one, ladies and gentlemen. I know you guys are getting the feel for this. So what I'm going to do is I need just to link those two quickly together, and then we can build half of the intersection. So as soon as I do that, I can simply go to profile creation tools again, and I'm going to quickly link these two levels because if you remember, in the intersection design, the water needs to run out of the intersection around the bow mouth. And it saves a lot of time for your contractors and less frustration to do these bow mouth more or builds inside in the real life. I'm talking about of experience. I've also have done this, and there are some designs I had to go and literally tweak some of the elements, and it was very frustrating. But with this workflow, it works very nicely. So as soon as I define that profile designs, I'm already set up to go and do this actual design. Now, the one thing is inside of intersection, one part of the road 1 is still having a curb and daylight function. So what I need to do is I literally need to go and split this segment because if you can remember, half of the intersection are actually just road, not paving. So we just split the corridor and put in a new segment. So I snap to these points where the end of curve for the bow mouths are, and the one for the beginning. Now this one did not snap. Let me just go say split region again and specify that position. As soon as I do that, it has this part and I can go swap out that assembly. So I can say road intersection on the left and simply say okay and apply and okay. So it swaps out that part and I'm only left now with this little gap inside, and that's exactly what I want. Now there's some little tactics about this because before we set in the bow mouths, I need to go and specify targets. So just to make my life a bit easier, I'm not going to go too much in depth. But what I need to do is I need to create a feature line target directly. So I'm going to go select the feature line target and I'm going to target that ETW. They are very important, especially when I'm going to put up targets inside of my bow mouths. So I'm just going to quickly run through this and you will see where it comes in a bit later. So remember, we need to do all of this manually, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what takes the most time. But that's where the benefit for today is because I want to show you the other way we can do it for previously. So I needed to go and actually go and define this corridor and push it back. And now we're all set up to start finally doing the bow mouth. So ladies and gentlemen, we're almost done. I'm just going to go add one because I get the feeling you guys understand what I'm trying to send out today. And I'm going to quickly add this baseline, which is the bow mouth and its design. And there we go, profile. And I need to add a new region because that's an entire alignment and I only use a certain part of the bow mouth. So I can go define the assembly, which is the bound mouth on the left, and I can simply say, okay. So as soon as I do that, it adds the region, and I can go specify where's the starting station. The starting station is somewhere over here, or the beginning, and the end for the other side. So then the next thing, I need to go set up frequencies, because frequencies control the amount of smoothness in your surface. So I'm going to change all of these to 1 because it's a bow mouth. So let's just go add a log offset target. And you can even be more specific. You can add specific additional stations if you want even more accurate results or additional frequencies. So I'm going to just do 1. I like to have this one in because it reduces amount of errors inside of my intersection. So I'm going to just add 1 just to show you that you can actually add more frequencies for those who might have not known. So I can simply do that and simply say, okay. And I can set up the target to surface, and the target surface for my daylight is going to be NGL. Now the width target, I need to select for that feature line, so it extends to that point. So I'm going to say auto corridor feature line, which I've generated, and so name the feature line. Then what I need to do is I need to set up a second target, which is actually the alignment. So the alignment is going to be for row 2, and I can simply go and add that part and simply say, okay. And then finally, for the slope and elevation targets, I need to go define this element. So I'm going to select auto corridor feature line. Yet again, the profile I also need to set as a target. Oops, wrong one. Let's say row 2. There we go. And I'm going to go scroll down to the VA so it snaps to the center line levels. And ladies and gentlemen, we're finally done. I can simply say apply and okay. And there's 1/2 of the intersection design completed. So if I do go select these 2 corridors, I'm not going to waste too much time on creating the other one. We are limited, pressured for time. But as you can see, it literally takes me about 25 minutes to actually do the design. So if you want to, you can actually go and add 5 more minutes to this clock to do the other half. But I'm feeling you guys get the idea. And like I mentioned, this is the old-fashioned way that we used to do these things inside of Civil 3D. So you might be wondering, is there a different type of method of doing this? There is. So just want to show yet again, if you do want to go create it, you can still go and add a new baseline and then you specify the alignments. But I still need to go to design this profile view, which I did not do. So like I mentioned, it will add to the clock at least more 5 minutes to do this other half of the intersection. So I'm going to stop this, and our total was 25.4, 8.95 minutes. Whew. So what does Ironman has to say about this? Well, he says, well done, old man, I suppose. Now it's his turn. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're ready because this is going to be fast. So the new Civil 3D and Devotech Aidas automated way of designing roads and intersections. So you guys know the struggle, which I just did manually. It was tedious. It was problematic. So I'm on the edge of my seat because I also want you guys to know, don't blink too fast because you might miss something. Here we go. So this time we're working on the same principles and the same amount of data. So what we are currently doing, let me just start this thing. There you go. So what I want to do is we still got the surface, we as well as got the same profiles. I just gave this file a new name. It's just called Iron Man now. And we've got still the assemblies. Now I'm going to be a bit cocky if I have to say it myself, but I'm going to design 4 roads instead of just 2, and I'm going to do 1 intersection design. So here we go. If I'm using iDAS tool command, we've got a corridor wizard. So we can simply select the corridor wizard, and that's it. All I need to do is define a polyline. So I'm going to select this polyline, road 1, road 2, and like I said, I'm going to even show off a little bit. I'm going to do 2 additional ones. So here we go. I specify that. Then I need to go set up the name convention and some of the styles. So you can also go add the sample lines if you want to. It does this, as well as the profile designs. I can specify the ETWs. It will create it automatically. The default assemblies I can go and set up. The lane width I can specify for all of the rows to 3.7. I set up the profile views and the band settings. And the information inside of that band settings, you will do it automatically for me. I just need to specify these three elements, which is the left, right, center, and the surface. That's the one of the requirements. And it will even go create the surfaces for the top surface of those roads, so I can specify the style and even the datum surface. Isn't that awesome? So as soon as I say next, I can go even do the super elevation design. So I can specify if I want to slope road with NGL or against NGL, depending on which one you want, and it will do it for you. As well as I can say apply design criteria for all of them. Remember, I need to do each and every one of them as I go along. Now, this setting does everything. So I simply say create. I specify when I'm going to put the profile views, and Bob's your uncle. It's there. Done. I know it's insane. So you can still do modifications to this. You can actually go and define the levels as it is. And now I'm interested in the intersection design. So you're saying, okay, Jacques, that was really impressive. But what about the intersection design? So first things first, we need to go specify the bow mouths so I can get the radius. Now, something to note, what I always tell my students and my clients, you always need to make sure our corridors are rebuilt. So inside of Devotech Aidas, we have a rebuild automatic function that will assist us and making sure these things are also always rebuild automatic. So I can just say rebuild corridors and select all of them, and they will be rebuilt. So that's a very nice function instead of going one by one. So if I want to do the intersection design, the first thing I need to do is for the bow mouths. So if I go select for the alignment, so I select the first alignment, second alignment, and I specify the radius of the bow mouths. So I specify 10. As soon as I do that, it adds this 2 polylines because that's required inside the intersection wizard. So if I go to the T intersection wizard, because I have a T intersection in here, I specify the intersection point. And as I do that, it's going to ask me for some few settings inside, as well as it will change the intersection part for me automatically if I specify that assembly. And I can go define for row 2, just make sure those are correct. And now it's going to ask me to select the left bow mouth. So I'm going to select the polyline we just created, and it signs its assembly, as well as the right-hand side. We do that one, and simply say next. I don't have medians, but if I did, I can actually go and do those developments. The frequencies, remember, I need to go into one of them. Now I can do all of them in the same go, and then I can go set up all of the styles, like for example, the profile view, and I can say create intersection. So as soon as I do that, it's going to ask me to select a location where to place those 2 profiles, which I needed to do manually. So as soon as I do that, it will create them. And then all I need to do is rebuild everything. So if I say rebuild corridor and Bob's your uncle, we're done. So I'm going to stop the clock. It took me 3.49 minutes just to do the same amount of effort I did with the previous session. So what has actually been brought in? So let's go a little bit in depth. If I go to the corridor itself, and let's go to object viewer so you can see that I'm not bluffing. He actually did design this entire intersection perfectly. So as you can see, it generated all of those elements. So let's go into a 3D dynamic a little bit and check that out. Just like that. It's beautiful, simply beautiful. So what else has been brought in? So because you guys saw the tedious work I needed to do manually, if I go to the corridor properties, you see it already adds the bow mouth to the left, it adds the frequencies as well as the targets. So it reduces the amount of errors you're doing inside of your company, and especially for your civil projects. As well as it even went as creating the profile views and attaching the right data to it. You can still go and modify it. Say, for example, if you change, let's say, one of the profile designs. So if I do want to do modifications to this, you can. Say, for example, it does add this just a PVI, but if I want to add a curve to it, let's say we go to edit profile geometry, and I want to add a more free vertical curve. And let's add this one and specify a radius. I think 50 is going to be too much. Let me just rather say 20. And there we go. Now all I need to do is I need to rebuild, and watch what happens as soon as I rebuild. The ETWs also update. So they are dynamic. So you do this once and you don't have to worry about the ETWs. He even actually went into connecting to the existing road. So there's a nice little tool inside of Devotech Aidas. If I go to profiles, I can actually go and project multiple surfaces, multiple surfaces to specific profiles. So if I say add a surface, I can simply go and select row on top, and I can go select for all of the profiles I want to project this. The old-fashioned way is we need to do it one by one manually. Now with this little tool, it helps us to do it all together. So if I simply say okay, and yes, and as you can see, if I switch on my line weight, there we go, it actually has added that topographic surface of row 1. The last thing I also want to show is for the profile views. If I go to the profile views itself, just to show to you, he actually puts up the right profiles directly. There's no more doing this manually. You actually have the ability to actually save these imports and exports using one of the Devotech Aidas tools commands as well. You can also do that. And lastly, what I want to show you is the corridor properties. If I go to surfaces, he actually creates all of those surfaces directly, as well as putting up the boundaries for the rest of the parts, which we need to do every time manually. So it saves you a lot of time when it comes to development and time saving. So ladies and gentlemen, that was very interesting. So Captain America does have its own opinion. So what is the war report and part statistics of what we've just achieved? So let's deep dive into this. So when using the Captain America way, aka the Civil 3D alone, so just a quick summary, it took 25.48 minutes to complete 2 roads and half of the intersection. As well as we have a little bit of limitations to this, the edge of the tarway has to be recreated additionally if adjustments were made to the road. And we need to always set this up in our profile bands, which takes a lot of time, especially if you've got very big urban development roads. You could imagine if I have to do 15 roads, it saves you a lot of time. Then, very critical for civil projects, time and productivity for overall completion of civil projects are affected because time equals money, and doing it the old-fashioned way, it takes a bit more strain on clients. Then the Ironman, aka Civil 3D and Devotech Aidas, I did actually 4 designs of roads and an intersection in less than 3.49 minutes to complete. The ETWs is dynamically updated if any adjustments are made to the road design, as well as the data bands data is already set up correctly from the start. Then the time and precision, it has been increased by 86%. So you could imagine how big of an effort that goes into your project. So meaning I can do more civil projects and complete it in less time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I do have to mention, I just briefly touched a little part on Devotech Aidas plus Civil 3D. So there are elements I did not discuss, but there are still a lot of value that we can show you in regards to this element. But that's where we still got the second part webinar on next week, Friday. So, but the overall statistic, the battle results for this competition, I have to give it to Civil 3D and Devotech Aidas wins. Sorry, Mr. Captain America, maybe next time. So it's not the end of the world just yet. We've got more webinars coming up, and of course, Captain America has its own opinions. He says the battle has been lost, but the fight is not over, and he's 100% correct. We still got more upcoming webinars that you guys can go visit our website or our YouTube channel, sorry, for the new and previous webinars. So we are having a second webinar next week, Friday, which is Civil War Part 2, which we are going to actually go and define piping system. So I'm going to show the 2 dynamics that we have in our piping system designs. So normally it's gravity feed pipe systems, which is normally storm water. So I want to discuss how we do it the old-fashioned way and how the analysis works. So we're not going to go that much in depth. I'm going to show the overall and show you what's the difference and where the key features are. Then the second pipe system, what I'm going to look into is a pressure pipe system, which is actually, I'm going to put emphasis on bulk water, because there are a lot of previous webinars we did water reticulation design, and the guys are pleading me to show a little bit of bulk water design. So if you guys know of any fellow engineers that like to do bulk water design, I would encourage you to share these links with them. So you can just follow our links on www.modena.asc.za. For the registration, you can use the Zoom Ask Webinar registration WN, that one, as well as if you want to re-see this webinar, if this was too fast, or if you want to skip the first part and just go to the Aidas part, Devotech Aidas part, then you can actually go to our YouTube channel and have a look at that. But we also post these links directly into the chat. You will receive them shortly, or I think Salim's already did that. Wonderful. So you can have a look into looking more for webinars, and even our previous webinars we have run regarding civil series. There's also something good. BIM 360. We've also got BIM 360 for civil, and we've got the entire product range for BIM 360 through all the disciplines. So I would encourage you guys to have a look into that specific element. So, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the final part, the Q&A. So there are some frequently asked questions that I get. So what does the iDAS abbreviation stands for? It stands for Infrastructure Design Automated Suite. And as well as, is Devotech iDAS part of the ASC collection? No, it's a separate package and it has its own licenses. So where do I get more information about licenses, pricing, training, or even live demonstration for Devotech iDAS and Autodesk Civil 3D? Seeing as this was really fast, and if you want a live demo, we can actually provide it. The answer is very simple. Please contact Salome, our infrastructure account manager. She would be happy to assist and provide you with those details. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give the floor or the battlefield to you. If you've got any questions, you're more than welcome to ask. So I'm just going to quickly check. There we go. I already see the questions coming in, and I can just quickly do this. So starting from the top. So let's just have a quick look. So there are one question: does this not water design engineer freshens will never understand the nitty-gritty of design? This client is anonymous. Basically, what we teach is the fundamentals are important because yes, we show how to use Devotech iDAS, but in our training, we actually put emphasis on showing exactly that is required. Because if there is a certain case of an element, we need to show where these bases are coming from. So just remember, in our training, we put emphasis on showing the original and the right correction way of critical elements for design. So we always put emphasis. We just don't teach people the fast way. We need to show them the critical elements. That's why it's called Civil 3D Fundamentals, because we show them exactly and how it's supposed to do in our industry. So it's not just watering it down. Okay. Let's just have a look. So there's a second question. Can iDAS do roundabouts in the same manner as a T intersection design? So this comes from Wesley. Wesley, in the roundabouts designs, we don't have a wizard just of yet, but we do show how to do the roundabouts designs in our advanced courses. Okay, there's another question. Can you please do an intersection that is not perpendicular? So Sean, we will actually go and I'll put a note to that. We can actually do that for another webinar, or me and Salim can just reach out to you and we can show you how to do it with your company. Just want to see what's the else. Our version of ISM does not create the ETWs left and right automatically. Can you advise how to update? Okay, this is from Patton. Patton, we will reach out to you regarding that. So I will just send you that information and how to go and create those updates. So there's another one. When doing intersection on iDAS, does it automatically do the tie-ins? The tie-ins. I'm not understanding actually the tie-ins. It's basically when it's tying into the main road, yes, it does. So what it does is it actually ties into the center road and it connects it already to the ETW on the side. So it does tie into the profiles itself. So there's a question, what version of Aidas am I using? Van Duncan. 11, yes, I'm using 11. And for this webinar. Then there's another one from Patton. Also, when you create a bow mouth, the triangles do not cover the whole intersection. We have to have a look into that, Paulson. It's supposed to actually run all of the triangular system today. There's something missing that if it's not doing the entire triangle systems. But it's something we can have a look at. But under my understanding, it does actually work out and flow the entire triangulation. Those are the little stuff that we need to look into. So there's another question. How can road widening be automated? And how will they be shown in the profile view? So in the road widening, we don't have this automated yet, but we can have a looking into the future to put in that add-on, and that's a very good point. But the old-fashioned way we need to do is you literally need to go and add the widening manually, and then you need to project it onto the profile. That's normally still the old-fashioned way that we do it, and that's how we teach it as well. But there are always room for improvement. And like I said, with these webinars, I get a better feel for what the guys are having struggling with, as well as where we can provide solutions and answers to that. So we will actually look into that. Thank you for that question so much. So there's another question. Was this an update version of Aidas, or we can do this on Civil 3 2019 as well? Yes, this is the newly updated one for Devotech Aidas. They're not really brand new. It was actually last year's update. We are actually waiting for the new version. It's still coming out soon, which is for versions 20 and 2021. So we're looking forward to that one. I know Devotech Aidas group are working tremendously fast on these elements, and they are coming up with really interesting stuff that you guys will be interested in seeing, especially for those who are already new to or using Aidas. I can already tell you, your life is going to get so much easier, even more easier with the sewer, stormwater and water and bulk water analysis. It's fantastic. So yeah, I'm currently just using version 11. You can still go and use the previous versions as well. So the version I'm currently using for this webinar is 2020, but you can also use 2019. Okay, let me just check if I've run through all of the questions. Very good questions today. Thank you guys so much. I love when the audience is actually engaging with me, because like I said, we're here to assist and to help and to make the future better. And we put pride and dedication into what we do here at Modena AEC and Devotech Aidas to actually make your lives easier. So thank you for the questions. I just want to check if I've got all of the questions answered. So this is a very interesting question. Can you design building civils in this project? So Wally, regarding that question, you need to be a little bit more specific. What type of buildings? If it's like civil type of buildings, like bridges, elements like that, you just need to be a little bit of clarity on that, what type of buildings. But you can send us an email and we will jump on that to you and answer you with those questions. So there's another one. Can Aidas do a bus bay, or do you have to do this manually? So bus lane designs we need to do it still manually. But like I said, this is a very good question which we can look into the future, because it's going to work on the same lenses for widening. So we will look into it, but now up till this point we still do it manually. Okay, seems like there's no more questions from my side, guys. I want to thank you for joining us today, and if there's any more questions, feel free to contact us either from Modena itself or you can contact Salome with any questions. And if you want to set up a demo, a live demo for your company, we can actually do that. So from my side, guys, enjoy the weekend and still be safe out there and take care.